presentation off with a question, so it's my question being, what would you do if I told you there was an invention that could put an end to an entire world war, yet at the same time cause an avalanche of problems that no one could possibly predict, ranging from school drills to quarantining an entire country due to the threat this invention poses? Now, you don't know this at the time. The only thing you really know is that this invention could lead to the end of a world war, and at the same time, you'll become death, a destroyer of worlds. Now, knowing that, would you still do it? Would you still use this invention? If you said yes, then congrats. You made the same decision the United States military did when they decided to drop the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki during World War II, which is what I'm going to be talking about today, because we still live in the nuclear age today, and the decision made decades ago still affects us this very day. Now, I've done a lot of research on this topic. I've combed through declassified documents, old medical records. I've even done a book with memoirs from people who experienced the bombs firsthand. Now, I hope by the end of this, you'll be able to, or you'll at least come away with a little knowledge about how the atomic bombs are affecting us today. Now I'm going to get to my first topic, which is a bit of a history lesson. That is the immediate impact of said bombs. Now, if you see here are the two bombs that were dropped, the Fat Man and Little Boy respectively. Now you might be thinking that how could these bombs do any damage? They are very funnily named. Well, joke's on you. Those funnily named bombs caused this and that and these. Not a pretty picture, I must say. If you want to get into specifics, the population of Hiroshima at the time, 350,000. And out of all those people, 140,000 died and 78,000 were injured. Nagasaki, smaller scale, but no less devastating. They had a population of 270,000, and out of all of that, 73,000 died and 75,000 were injured. I want you to keep in mind that at the time, when these bombs went off, everything within a 1 mile radius was completely obliterated, unless it was like heavy concrete or something. And that blast impact expanded, which caused a firestorm, which torched everything within a 4.4 mile radius. And if you want to get even more specific than that, 12 miles away from that, glass was reportedly shattered. And to get even more specific, here is a table courtesy of the Scholastic Journal called Atomic Bomb Injuries Among Survivors in Hiroshima. And as you can see here, these two tables list the type of injury and where the person was when they were injured. As you can see, injuries from burns from the flash, burns from fire, and burns from the radiation. And as you can see, staggering numbers. And stuff like this, and that, and these, which caused the militaries to focus on deterrents so that countries, mainly the United States, wouldn't just start flinging atomic bombs everywhere, which led to the mutually assured destruction doctrine, which basically, well, it's in the name, it's where two countries with nuclear weapons are fully capable of destroying each other in case the war breaks out and they decide to use the weapons. And while we're on that subject of doctrines, I want to talk about two incidents that led to almost complete nuclear destruction. And that would be the nuclear arms race, which started shortly after the Second World War ended. It was mainly between the United States and the Soviet Union, and it happened for a number of reasons. One of which was because, well, the United States had a monopoly of nuclear weapons at the time, and the Soviet Union didn't like that. Add that on to the fact that the Soviet Union deeply distrusted them and just didn't like us whatsoever. It led to the stockpile of any and all nuclear weapons you can think of being gathered between the two countries, and it only ended in 1991 because of the collapse of the Soviet Union. So there's your little time frame in mind. It lasted the entire Cold War. And now I want to get to the most well-known incident during that time that, again, almost led to complete nuclear fallout, which was the Cuban Missile Crisis, which was a 13-day standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union. And here's a little timetable right here. I'm not going to go through all of it, but the gist of it is the United States discovered that Russia was hoarding or stockpiling atomic bombs and other weaponry in Cuba. So the United States president at the time, which was Kennedy, during his first term, decided to, ask the Soviet leader to, can you get these away from here? I don't like this close. Soviet leaders said no, which caused a stalemate, and well, tensions were flamed at the times. The pilot was shot down. The American citizens were on their feet in anticipation, knowing this could go off at any moment. And all it takes is one little instant, and the big red button would be pushed. But thankfully, their fears didn't come to pass, because on the 28th of October, the Soviet leader agreed to have the bombs removed. And well, that was the end of the most tense 13 days in American history. So now that I've talked about the military aspects as well as the political implications of the atomic bomb, I want to get to the culture aspect of it, or the first immediate reaction, which was, well, a mixed bag, as you can say. Well, not really. Here's a newspaper clipping of the day when the bombs dropped. It was a detailed paper about the Manhattan Project, as well as the impact of the bombs, or the death toll and whatnot. Here is a picture of the victim of the bombs. It's kind of sad, horrific, and if you believe it or not, this is a milder case of the effect of the blast. And to paint an even greater picture, I'm going to read you a quote from a book called Hiroshima by John Hersey. This is from accounts of what happened mere hours after the bombs dropped. And while reading this, I want you to keep this face in mind. Wounded people were hurrying across the bridge in an endless parade of endless misery, several of which had horrific burns scattered throughout their entire bodies. Children included were littered head to toe with horrific burns and scarring. Terrible. Imagine this on the face of a child. Horrific. And now, as I've said before, I talked about drills, and here's an example of that. This is what you call the duck and cover drills. It's basically, that is, if a bomb were to go off in the vicinity of a school, the students were to hide under their desks. Now, you might ask me, what could that possibly do against an atomic bomb? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, you are really curious children. This will do absolutely nothing to protect you. This is the equivalent of hiding under your bed. It's not going to do anything. You are still going to you will be melted by those bombs, sadly. But to get on to a lighter topic, let's talk about pop culture, which was basically at the time, well, they were not in favor of the atomic bombs. And all of these examples here were basically messages against the use of atomic bombs. Godzilla being an allegory for the destruction of atomic bombs. Dr. Strangelove was an entire movie based around the plot of the United States using atomic bombs irresponsibly, and this song was just a political song about, hey, don't use these bombs. Now, to get on to the closing statement, because I'm running out of time, I've gone over the political aspects, the military ramifications, and just how the atomic bombs have changed our world as a whole. And I hope you've all come away with a little better understanding, and thank you for giving me moments of your time.